The way of Blacology. If I speak in the languages of other cultures and assimilate to their ways, but have not cultural application, I am a copycat or a second-class citizen. If I have their theories, philosophy, and beliefs, and can quote all their great men, and have studied all their sciences so as to perpetuate their culture, but have not a sense of my own cultural solidarity, I am walking the path of least resistance. If I throw away all my heritage and hold up the heritage of other cultures, but have not any consciousness of my own, I gain nothing. Blacology is patient and kind. It is not jealous or boastful. It is not ashamed of its history. It is productive and creative. It does not rejoice at self-hatred. It rejoices in unity. It bears all its people. It believes in all its people. It has hope for the future. It knows what the people need and what they want. It endures all struggles. Blacology never ends. As for assimilation, it will pass away. As for other cultures, they will cease. For their theories, philosophies are imperfect, and their second-class citizenship is imperfect. But when Blacology comes, their imperfections will pass away. When I was a slave, I spoke as a slave. I dreamed as a slave. I thought as a slave. I reasoned as a slave. I acted like a slave. When I became emancipated and free, I gave up my slave mentality. For now, we must acknowledge the need of Blacology. But here, we wore masks. Now, I have knowledge of self and equality. Then, I was afraid. Even as I understand the need of cultural refinement, I know I must be understood. So I say to myself, it must be worth fighting for. It must be worth living for. It must be worth dying for. Abide these truths, but the grace to die. If a black man or woman has not found something worth dying for, he or she is not delivered. Brothers and sisters, Blacology is the ancestral gift to the black folks. Also, the man
Habarigani, brothers and sisters. Hotep, welcome. Travel the Blacological Underground Radio Network. This is Blackologist Cross, UBZD, coming to you from Washington, D.C. metropolitan area, in Fort Washington, Maryland, in Prince George County, the wealthiest, most progressive black county in the black diaspora within the United States. This Blacological Radio Network is dedicated to the invention, creation, development, and manufacturing of the intellectual cultural science of Blacology. The sole purpose of this radio show is for the promotion, perpetuation, and marketing of Blacology, a cultural science. Our goal is to develop this science and implement into the public, private, charter, and African-centered schools, home schools, and historical black colleges and universities, predominantly black institutions, and independent black institutions with black population demographics from 1% to 100%. We come to you today not as a sociologist, psychologist, nor as an anthropologist. As a matter of fact, we do not come to you from any of the urological fields of studies. We come to you as a blackologist, an intellectual cultural scientist from the science of Blacology. We say this because this autonomous science does not take on the vicarious scheme of urological thought inscribed for black people. This radio network is to create a new set of facts, data, philosophy, and theories from the black culture. Its purpose is to seek justice and redemption advancement of black people, and the redevelopment of black African culture. Its goal is to build intellectual science and studies that will generate educational commerce for all black people. Our Blacological topic: why Blacology Radio Network? Why a radio network on Blacology? Is there such an autonomous body of knowledge? Who are the founding fathers? Many black scholars indeed will argue that black culture, like any field of study, can authentically relate to tactics and approximate agendas, regardless of education, commerce, or other environmental factors of black people, while under research and study. However, Blacology related to chronology and commerce and intellectual genius exists in black culture, where traditions and the color of people are of primary significance. As long as this holds true, it is possible for Blacology to claim that it is subjective, direct, and specific in its scientific approach. Blacology is defined as the scientific study of the evolution of black African people and their culture. It is the perpetuation and utilization of the ideals, philosophies, theories, beliefs, concepts, and notions of their past and present life experience, and the spirit of their uncompromising struggle as their cultural knowledge. It is also the acclamation, affirmation, declaration, and proclamation of intellectual genius, creativity, and the black story. Holistically, it is the manifestation of an applied, authentic, autonomous, Blacological, intellectual, cultural science, educational commerce. The significance of this Blacological radio network is to present a set of statements that attempt to define the revelation of the up-and-coming field of Blacology, and a new set of facts, data, philosophy, and theories, which can be useful to those who have an interest in understanding and applying these aspects to their lessons and efforts within the black culture. Blacology is a promising field of study. It is developed for 5 reasons. 1, as a response to and evolution of the intellectual genius and creativity of black scholars, as a relative model for evolution and self-determination in opposition to the monopoly and biases of urological studies. 2, to draw a clear line of distinction between what is urological and what is Blacological. 3, as a affirmative stride in the direction of essential definitions, concepts, and theory building that utilize the experiences, oral and literary stories of black people. 4, the first step towards evolving of Blacology question, which will be the endowment of evolving of Blacology question, which will be the development and building of a Blacology Institute, which will be a center of Blacological research in close connection and cooperation with the self-educated black scholar, black homeschools, and the 105 historical black colleges, HBCUs, and 25 predominantly black institutions, PWIs, and the independent black institutions. And 5, to establish an authentic, autonomous, intellectual cultural science owned by black scholars that is developed, founded, operated, maintained, and manufactured for the perpetuation of a Blacological intellectual cultural commerce. Because Blacology is the product of and the result of black culture, it is impossible to divorce the two. Urological studies has, in their nucleus, maintained their urological intellectual cultural supremacy and rarely supported the kinds of changes that would assure that black scholars no longer experience the marginal, underestimated, devalued cultural conditioning in intellectual studies industries to which they have been subjected to. One of the popular ideals in urological studies has been that black scholars are a minority group, which would in time become part of emulation, mimicking, integrating, and assimilation theories, in the similar way that other racial groups have done, of which is a byproduct of ethnic cleansing. There has been an overall repudiation of the different chronological conditions that distinguish black scholars from urological scholars. The relevant factor that originally black people came to America unwillingly and as victims of Euro-colonialism, that they were held in captivity. The process of enslavement forced upon them, and consequently granted second-class citizenship and minority status. According to Dr. Joyce A. Ladner, who edited the book, The Death to White Sociology, she says, for the most part, this still exists, means that they cannot be analyzed in the same way as Europeans who freely came to the United States seeking better lives. The additional fact that the latter European immigrants had the same skin color as the earlier American explorers and came from roughly similar cultures enhanced their assimilation. Another vital difference to be made is that black people who came to the United States in chains or by immigration have always lived in isolated environments among themselves and have therefore produced a strong intellectual culture that survived through unreliable measures outside or on the periphery of the conventional urological studies. Traditional analysts have failed to explore the distinctive intellectual genius, creativity, and culture of black people when they were the subjects of survey, and have excluded black scholars from the common structure of urological studies. The refusal to address black culture and its intellectual genius and black story has caused the misrepresentation that we see today in urological literature. In the past, urological scholars in the social fields have described black scholars as incompetent, wretched, and a deviant group. There is a tradition of cultural conditioning that underestimates, devalues, and marginalizes black scholars that is illustrated in the writings of many urological scholars up to the current generation. The ritual practice of stigmatic injury and ethnic cleansing has enabled the urological scholars' treatment of black people as substandard. For example, the alleged fatherless family structure with its ethnically destitute connections has been the target of many urological intrusion policies, whose aim firmly echoes these preconceptions and are not entirely related to the respect and realization of black families' requests and wishes. There are many chronological experiences for these theoretical and practical imprecisions. Too many urological scholars have accepted the premise that the chronological bias and public criticisms to which black scholars were subjected would forever prevent them from meeting the requirements to the vague replica of the perfect urological studies industry. This innate cultural bias, which can be observed in all urological sciences, was mostly obvious in the early writings of the urological scholars and founding fathers of social sciences. For example, in 1914, Robert E. Parks and Ernest Burgess, two of the influential urban sociologists from the famed sociology school or Chicago School of Sociology, wrote in their books Introduction to the Science of Sociology. The temperament of the Negro, as I conceive of it, consists of a few elementary but distinctive characteristics determined by physical organizations and transmitted biologically. These characteristics manifest themselves in a genial, sunny, and social disposition, in an interest in and attachment to external physical things rather than to subjective states and objects of introspection, in a disposition for expression rather than enterprise and action. It is interesting to note that Parks and Burgess still retain highly reputable positions in the history of Euro-American sociology, despite their theories of genetic determinism in black people. Even more so than the black scholar Dr. W.E.B. Du Bois, who conducted the first sociological studies in the U.S., who also wrote 2,038 books, articles, and pamphlets in this urological study. Edward B. Reuter, another urological or Euro-American sociologist, held a similar view in 1927. He wrote, "The Negroes were without ancestral pride or family tradition. They had no distinctive language or religion. These, like their folkways and mores or moral customs, were but recently acquired from the whites and furnished no nucleus for a racial unity. The group was without even a tradition of historic unity or of racial achievement. There were no historic names or no great achievements, no body of literature, no artistic productions. The whole record of the race was one of servile barbarism, status apparently without a point about which a sentimental complex could be formed." One could disagree that the doctrines of racial inferiority which these Euro-Americans wanted to text systematically have been predisposed of. Yet, an exploration of the latest writings reveals firmly unfair position, although not quite so insensitive as those articulated from the 1920s to the 1970s. Now we will go to the phone and we will continue part 2 on our next Blacology Network broadcast. What we want to do is we want to talk about why we must, as scholars, develop our own myths so that we will be able to build from these myths the reality that is necessary for us to build an intellectual science of our own. I was taught at Howard University in a black leadership class that the origin of all reality comes from myth. We should be about myth making. We should be developing the myths of Blacology so that we will be able to build this field of study. Listen to this.
There is a myth. It is a vision deeply rooted in the black culture at the HBCUs and in the minds of black scholars. There is a myth that one day in the black culture all over the world, the sons and daughters of former slaves, free blacks, and all black Africans will be proud of their culture and will be able to live together as brothers and sisters. There is a myth, brothers, that one day in the black culture, Blacology will be taught to black children, and they will be able to say equality at last, and that they will no longer have to deal with second-class citizenship, minority status, and colonialism. There is a myth that the cultural science of Blacology will come and eliminate cultural deprivation of black people. There is a myth, brothers and sisters. The black man will no longer be dependent on the ologies of other cultures, but that they will utilize the philosophy, theories, and the knowledge of their forefathers to develop for their culture solutions to the problems of black culture and black African people. There is a myth today in the black culture. The science of Blacology will become a reality in this day. With this science, we can go out and achieve equality, and there will be no unsurmountable goals. There is a myth philosophies, theories, and the beliefs of black scholars, and that all black men, women, and children are involved by the Creator's will in some unalienable rights. And among these are cultural affirmation, cultural solidarity, cultural education, and cultural intellectual equality. There is a myth that the exploitation, degradation, and cultural inequality will be eliminated, and black culture will be exalted, and that marginalization, underestimation, and devaluing of black people will come to an end, and black intellectuals will see this, and the glory of black culture will be revealed, and all black African people shall see this together. There is a myth this afternoon that the brotherhood of the black man shall become a reality in this day. And through Blacology, we will go out and achieve equality. With Blacology, we will be able to build a tunnel of hope through a mountain of despair. We will be able to achieve a new day when all black people will have knowledge of their culture. There will be able to join hands and say equality at last, thank the ancestors for their sacrifice, equality at last. Thank the Creator Almighty, equality at last. We want to make them proud. There is a myth. Blacology will make real the word, all men are created equal. By the liberation of the innovative, authentic, monolithic, intellectual, creative genius of black African people and their culture. All praise is due to the ancestors and the Creator. Blackologist, Professor Walter Banana Cross. Blacology is the scientific study of the evolution of black African people, the perpetuation and utilization of their cultural knowledge, the intellectual creative genius, and the manifestation of cultural science education. The myth of Blacology is real. There is a myth in the black culture today that the science of Blacology is real. There is a myth that Blacology within the hearts, the minds, and the souls of black African people. There is a myth, brothers and sisters, that Blacology will make black people real, intellectuals. There is a myth of Blacology. The myth of Blacology is real. Blacology of cultural science is real.
Yes, we are taking it one day at a time. We're building this radio station, our radio network.
Welcome to Blacology TV broadcast. I am Blackologist Professor Cross. I come to you not as a sociologist, not as a psychologist, nor as an anthropologist. As a matter of fact, I do not come to you from any of the urological fields of study. I come to you today as a cultural scientist from the science of Blacology. For those of you who do not know anything about the colors that you see, red, black, and green, these colors were given to the black culture by Marcus Mosiah Garvey in the 1930s and the 1940s. The red represents the blood, the black represents the people, the green represents the land. And in Blacology, we added the gold to give us at Blacology, a cultural science, our colors. And that gold represents the resources that were stolen. The red, the black, and the green, whenever you see it, if it is not in that order, red, black, and green, it is not the authentic colors of black culture. By Marcus Garvey. Today we are going to talk about Blacology TV show, a critical challenge for black scholars. Blacology TV show, Cultural Science Education, is cultivating a large group of young black people and graduate professionals into productive careers in the intellectual studies, which remains a critical challenge to black scholars. Despite completion of self-education, undergraduate, and graduate schools, some black scholars, and far too many as graduate professionals, complete degree plans with adequate intellectual academic credentials with no or low opportunities to develop an authentic, autonomous cultural science, Blacology, for black culture. Only small portions of black scholars see a direct link between their cultural studies and how it can benefit them in their subsequent intellectual careers, in their cultural acquisition and wealth. Many do not know how to gain access to intellectual careers and opportunities. The early intellectual career problems of black scholars are particularly troubling since they go together with a range of miseducation and indoctrination, including exploitation of the black mind in high rates of non-autonomous studies and involvement in anti-relevant cultural activities. Blacology TV show approach is one promising vehicle for dealing with these issues and helps all black scholars reach their full intellectual potential. Blacology TV show will motivate young black people and help them to learn in a intellectual and cultural framework, gain valuable experience, valuable credentials, and connections to careers, mentoring assistance, subcontracts, institution building, and effective methods for the lessons of entrepreneurship and career development in cultural science instruction or intellectual studies. Blacology TV show proposes to utilize the cultivated black scholar who has knowledge of black African culture in the fields of intellectual studies and urological studies. In doing so, it will provide careers for those who are underemployed and unemployed in black culture. This blackological science is particularly, specifically geared towards the development of black culture and black scholars. In addition, Blacology TV show will also build cultural science education as an intellectual study industry for Black African cultural market. This meets the high demand for the request for supply of Black African intellectual studies in HBCUs, public, private, and charter schools by Black people and their elders and intellectual scholars. Blacological research reveals that the 1994 School to Work Opportunities Act, STWOA, and Goals 2000, Educate America Act, authorized federal support to expand state and local efforts to implement School to Work initiatives. Blacology TV is a School to Work initiative and will reveal how far these initiatives have developed in the Black culture. There is a quiet evolution taking place in many cities and states involving substantial numbers of Black intellectuals in the urological fields of studies such as sociology, psychology, anthropology, history, political science, literature, journalism, African American studies, African studies, and Black studies. Also those Black scholars who have developed authentic autonomous cultural studies in the last century or 75 years, such as Afrocentricity, African-centered education, Negro history, Black nationalism, Black poetry, Pan-Africanism, and Blacology, etc. These intellectuals are moving towards the support for the development of cultural science education field of study that will provide careers and entrepreneurship of Black knowledge to the service of the Black African cultural market. There is a supply and demand for the cultural autonomy of Black knowledge to be taught to Black people. What Blacology TV show will reveal is the markets reaching large numbers of Black scholars in the historical colleges and universities, in the midst of the Black culture, and Black people in their local and national communities, as well as international communities and families. What we can learn from this existing array of the Black markets. Can we observe any enlightening impact or new approaches in Black culture? What is the potential of a Blacological science reachable through School to Work Act? This project will contribute to the vision of Dr. Amos Mohammed Deluxe Sirleaf and Blackologist Professor Cross, UBZD, by providing new knowledge about one of the past policy initiatives that can aid in the implementation of Blacology into the U.S. educational system and assist in the decline of occupational opportunities for Black scholars in the intellectual studies. This Blacology TV program will also study and provide information about what is taking place in the national, international, and local implementation for the School to Work initiatives and entrepreneurship of Black intellectuals in cultural science education, Blacology. Blackologist Professor Cross.
This is Blacology Cultural Science We're working every day that we can to build this intellectual science. We ask that all of you who listen and hear, those who can also see, have a vision for the redevelopment of black culture. Join us in our efforts to build this intellectual cultural science. Blacology of cultural science is an ideal whose time has come. We have been working diligently to build this field of study so that the unborn generation and those yet to come will be able to have a field of study that will provide jobs, careers, and entrepreneurship so that they may be able to have a cultural commerce. Our ancestors have worked diligently to build for us fields of studies that will provide us with information and knowledge. Not just information and knowledge, but these fields of studies that they have worked in diligently, and our genius and creativity has been there to help us have a direction and some purpose as to what we should be doing. This information should be used for the development of sciences, not just to study. So we as black people must do the job that is needed to have been done. We need to be able to build for ourselves those things that we've been asking others to do for us. Every year we go to the military, we go to the urological institutions, we graduate, and we think individualistically when we come out instead of thinking as a collective. We must begin to understand the necessity in building our culture so that we as a people will be able to do what we need to have done, and that is to build for ourselves a blackological, intellectual, cultural science commerce. We need a commerce, and the way to do it, all of our scholars agree, the way to cultural development is through education. And this is where we must go and we must do. And not just in education, but we must be able to build for ourselves those things that we've been asking others to do for us. This is Blackologist Professor Walter Zamani Cross. I want to give thanks to Dr. A.M.D. Sirleaf and his great efforts that he's doing in Liberia, building Blackology of cultural science at Cunnington University. I want to thank Paulette Smith and Don Paul Industries. Also, Com5 and Sister Tacola Cross for all her support and hard work. And I love and appreciate all black people, and I believe in all y'all. May the content of your character be the knowledge of your culture. Blackologically speaking, I refuse to accept the ideal that the presence of urological scholars makes the black scholars morally incapable of reaching up for the black knowledge that forever confronts us. In the words of the Va language in Liberia, West Africa, Mucha Senje, which means our home first. One day at a time.